Ooh, shit, boys. I don't think I've ever been this excited to get a package. Look at this. There we go. This is going to be fun. Welcome back to the workbench, guys. Dan here as always, and I have a really exciting review for you all today. I'm super excited. You guys need to be excited too. This is a review on the brand new OVR 6400 series scrap gondolas. These are cars I've wanted to see modeled since I was a little kid. Back in 2005, these cars first started being introduced into the rail system, and they were originally hauling C&D on the CSX Railroad, and they were being shipped out here to Fostoria, Ohio, or roughly near my area, and they were actually being dumped at the local landfill. So I actually got to see these cars firsthand when they were still glossy and brand new. Now, the original roads were some older 6400 variations, and that's not exactly what these are. The 6400 Gons that OVR has actually modeled are some more late phase cars, but I am hoping to see some of those older cars being produced. Athearn is going to be working on some of the older 6400 Gons too, but theirs aren't going to be coming out till, I think, honestly, late at the end, kind of towards the end of the year, maybe December, but I honestly see them going maybe even into January or February next year, so I'm really not in any hurry to see those. But we have right now is the OVR cars, and these are basically covering some really popular road names and schemes right now, including quite a few that I'm personally really interested in, because these are cars I get to see on a regular basis on my railfan trips to Fostoria. So I'm really excited to open this box, and today I've actually ordered 8 cars to go ahead and review today, so we're going to have a lot to look at. A lot of these schemes are still available from OVR. Here you can see the price ranges. I'm sure there's a couple other hobby shops that have gotten them. I believe Tim's Hobby Shop in Maine, I think he got some in stock. I'm not sure what his prices are for that. I don't know how many companies have actually bought these cars. I got mine directly from Otter Valley Railroad, and you can see I paid $64.99 per car, and I have 8 total. And there you can see the total amount. And that's before the shipping too, so the shipping maybe was like 20 bucks. So now I can officially unbox these. I'm super excited right now. So we'll just cut the ends open here. Oh, look at this. That's pretty cool. So that would be my invoice paper, but they left me a nice little note there, so that's really cool. There you can see the actual invoice now. You can see the roads that I selected. You can see they're each a quantity of 1. I got different road numbers, of course. I'll go ahead and set that aside. OVR has sent me a really cool set of, well, these are actually magnets, and I think one of these is a sticker. That's pretty cool. Nice. Okay. And then here you can see we have the contents carefully packed inside these capacity boxes. I'm going to go ahead and start pulling these out. Real careful. Look at that. Look at that. Oh man. This is like freaking Christmas right here. Another Winx. I got 2 Winx, I believe. I have an AMEX version with the cool side hatch. This should be 2 of these, I believe. Yep, I got two AMEX. So there's that really cool version. I'll go ahead and put those right there. Then I got the Cardella. These are ones I'm really anxious to get unboxed. 6400 series, the Cardella. Then I got one more Cardella. I have a CDEX, the late CDEX, and then another CDEX. Alright, so here we can see the overview of each box with the nice labels for the packing. And I'm going to unbox maybe one or two live. I'm not going to try to film me unboxing each individual car just because there's going to be too many cars too, but if I find anything in any of these cars, I'll point it out for you guys. Let's kick things off with one of the Winx versions. This is one of the most recent paint schemes that I've been seeing. These are factory fresh cars. They're already getting dirty and covered in graffiti, of course, but that's typical of the cars in this kind of service. We'll go ahead and unbox this here carefully from the end. Extract the car. I don't appear to see any data or anything like that inside the box, so we can go ahead and set that aside. Inside the packing, I can see that we have the car itself, and it also includes a little pack of spare bearing caps. So I'm assuming these must be actual spinning bearings on these trucks. I'm curious to see that. And you can see it's the typical kind of two-piece box protecting the model. It's not really moving around in there. That's a good sign. I'm going to go ahead and pop this open. And here it is. Oh wow. Nothing floating in the box. Let's go ahead and set that aside. First impressions, the car has quite a bit of weight. Actually a lot of good weight. So I can see that these cars are going to track pretty well. One thing that we should note right away though, there actually is some significant body wobble out of the box. However, we can probably remedy that by tightening down the trucks, because you can see the trucks are actually pretty loose. I'm assuming the way we can get in there is by removing this little piece of the truck. If I can zoom in real quick, I'll have to see if this is removable. I'm assuming so, because obviously the truck has to be screwed in here, so I'm assuming we can pop that little piece off to access the screw. We should just be able to tighten these trucks down, and that should hopefully solve that problem. Outside of the box, the detail, first impressions, is super nice. These cars have a lot going for them. There's a lot of really nice detail, and yep, the bearings do spin on these. I actually was unaware that they did that. I didn't know that these were spinning bearings. I was told by someone else that they were just a solid molded casting. So that's pretty cool. Kicking off the review portion of this really nice model, you can see we have the nicely done side ladders, and we have the nicely done steps as well. These parts are actually pretty durable. They're molded in some really tough plastic, and you can see we also have some really nice side detail. We have the visible brake rigging. We have really nice printing and painting. We actually have the little car track tag on the side as well. That's something you don't see often modeled on modern rail cars, but that's something all these have, and OVR has actually modeled that by molding it into the side of the car, so that's pretty cool. The trucks look incredible. I really like the detail on the trucks. We'll have to get a nice close-up shot of that. The ends on the car have some really nice details, but I'll talk about that more when I get the car adjusted for a different shot. Again, you can see the really nice brake rigging on the side. It's all very nicely concealed in there, but you can see the retainer valve there on the side. The printing and painting looks fantastic. It's nice and flat, even painting. The printing is super nice. The only thing I can say is that I noticed that the little NSC decals, the National Steel Car decals, are a little small. They should be slightly larger. And then there is some load data that is on the end here. That appears to be pretty small as well. In reality, on these cars, it's a little bit larger. The safety striping appears to be slightly small, the way they printed it too. But that's all stuff I can fix, other than the little NSC decals. Looking at some of the fantastic details on the ends of the car, I really like the way they did the ribbing. It's really nice. It has a lot of depth. I like this little plate that they've installed on that. That's prototypical for the late phase 6400 gondolas. Now don't be confused here, because some of these cars the early production ones had a sheet that maybe only came up to here, possibly this second from last rib, and it would just kind of dead end there. The newer ones have the plate that runs all the way to the top cord from bottom to the top. You can see there's a lot of nice printing and painting again. It's very finely done, but it's all legible. The coupler lift bar looks really nice. It's the more modern style coupler lift bar. OVR has also modeled the pivoting air hose and its mechanism and piping. That's a common thing that you see on a lot of these modern cars, and these 6400 gondolas have that. I know OVR said they might consider doing these as separate parts later on, and I really do hope they do that, because they're one of the first companies that's really modeled this hose fully installed on the car, and it has all the appropriate piping and detail applied to it already. So I really do hope that they actually make these as separate parts for some different cars. On the top cord, you can see they really did a nice job modeling some of the finer details, like the little brackets that connect the two pieces of top cord together. For example, the side piece and the end piece. You can see there's the little cutout pockets. I believe that's for running the C&D netting through so that they can actually have little tie points. I believe is why those are molded into the sides, but you can see OVR has actually modeled that, and these have the really nice weld seams for the individual panels on the interior of the car. That's something that's really cool. Of course, the insides of these just get absolutely wrecked very quickly, so I'll have to do a lot of heavy weathering, even to some of these newer cars. Here we can see a nice look at the very finely done coupler pocket, and I really love the detail on this piece. You can see they have all the nice bolt detail. The air hose mechanism looks really nice, the way they run the pipe out and then it wraps around like that. You can see it's really, really incredible detail. Again, there's a nice look at the coupler lift bar. There's the nicely done large truck, and then you can see they've modeled quite a bit of piping and underbody detailing here. And there's some exceptional detail. You can see all the valves and everything is installed there. And having climbed under a couple of these cars for pictures before, I can definitely say it's all there. It looks incredible. So you got the OVR logo there, that's pretty interesting. And then you got the other end there with the nice detailing on the coupler bar. And the really unique rib detailing. You notice how it's actually angled out around the bolster. That's something really unique, and OVR has captured that nicely on the model as well. Something I was looking at was these couplers on the car. I've never seen a scale size plastic coupler like this, but OVR's made a really nice replica of a modern style coupler here, and there's actually no spring on the side of the coupler either. You can see it's actually just a plastic piece that allows the knuckle to pivot. So it eliminates having that little spring there that you see on normally with KDs and other plastic couplers. That's actually pretty unique. It's the first kind of coupler I've seen like this in plastic, but it's really actually quite a nice piece, I gotta say. Talking about some of the really nice unique truck detail, of course the spinning bearings are a great touch. I love the fact that they actually painted them blue for these newer cars. That's a really cool touch. Of course they have the end, or rather the reporting mark data stenciled onto the truck. You have all of the nice raised cast lettering. That's all there. And then the wheel sets look fantastic. You can see they're really fine profile, and they're all metal, which look really nice. So I can't find any of the actual car numbers that I have, but I found a similar car here, actually one number off to the first one. And here you can see in a side-by-side comparison, everything lines up really well, even the safety stripe placement. And I also do have to mention, I made a mistake. I thought that OVR might have gotten these NSC decals and then this little data sheet here incorrect, because I assumed that they were possibly the wrong size. Well, after looking at some more photos I actually found that it's on the earlier Winx cars, some of this data is larger. This is actually a newer run, more of the latest run car, and these decals are in fact smaller on these prototype cars, so OVR actually did get all the data right on this car. In comparison to all the prototype detailing, if we actually turn to the correct side, you can see everything lines up super well. So I'm not going to be reviewing both cars because I have duplicates of each version that I have here. I'm only going to be reviewing one car out of each paint scheme offering that I've purchased. So the next one we're going to be looking at is CDEX, Coastal Distribution, and this is another common car that I see around here all the time. This is number 16051, and unfortunately I could not find prototype photos of this car, so I have to again give OVR some benefit of the doubt. Just like before, we have very nice detailing on the sides for the ladders, superb end detailing. We have the really nicely detailed trucks, full brake rigging, very nice, crisp, and clean printing. The paint quality on these cars is super nice. Looking on the interior of the car, it's interesting. There's a lot of scratching. I don't know if it's just something that might have happened during shipping or in the factory, but there's a lot of fine scratching on the inside, but who really cares? Because, let's be honest, if you're going to model these and weather them, you're going to have to paint all that anyway. And these things get really beat up. It's very, very minor too. You can barely see it right here. Just thought that was interesting. But other than that, the paint quality on the side of the car and on the ends is exceptional. This is the CDEX style car in the similar number range, so these would have come about the same batch. But you can see the font is different, the placement of the lettering is different, and unfortunately I do have a feeling that this is technically inaccurate on this car. But again, I don't have prototype photos of this actual car to confirm if this is accurate or not. I have to give OVR the benefit of the doubt here with this one. Other than the difference in the reporting mark font, the card data, and the placement of the safety striping and all of the appropriate safety warning data and everything else on the side of the car matches up correctly to what is shown here on this prototype car. This next paint scheme offering I have is an AMEX version. It is 1159, and this is a lighter white car. This is an older 6400 series car. I'd say mid-production because it does have the large end plate where it goes all the way to the top. The earlier cars, again, had a shorter plate. For this particular car, in the scheme of things, what I end up planning on doing with these, because I have two of them, is actually modifying the plates on the ends and repatching these to Luex, and then beating the crap out of them and putting all the graffiti on the sides. But that's going to be something for later. So what I'm going to be doing now is just looking over all the detail again, and again I really like all the quality of the detailing on the sides. I really like the retainer valves. That is another little detail that I really like the way they've rendered on the car. I believe that's a photo etch. Well, it's not photo etch. I believe it's a brass wire piece, but it's really finely done. I really like how they did that. The card data is unique to this style version as well. The other really cool thing about the AMEX version here seen is that they have these really cool access hatches on the side. That was a really unique spotting feature, and it's something I really wanted to see modeled, and OVR has delivered a version of this car that does have this hatch, and I really like that. The quality of the detailing again is superb. The paint printing and everything else is really nicely done on the side of the car. This time I actually found a real prototype photo of the exact car that we have as the model, and we can compare it accurately here. You can see in the photo here, this one is obviously pretty beat. It does not take long for these cars to get wasted. So, looking at the prototype and comparing it with the artwork on the car, everything actually lines up super nice. The placement of the COTS block, the retainer valve logo there, or not the logo, but rather the stenciling. The car data here lines up correctly, and the safety stripe placement is also accurate for this car. The next car that I have to review is another two cars, and it is the Cardella, one of the more striking paint schemes currently offered in this run of Otter Valley gondolas. The Cardella scheme is super nice because it has this bright green and the large Cardella lettering. Now, looking at this car, it looks great out of the box. However, I do have some concerns, and it comes down to if the graphics are accurate. The reason I say this is because they've chosen to model an earlier run car in the sense that there's actually multiple paint schemes in this variation, like around this build time, where the green was slightly different and there were multiple variations of Cardella lettering. And I'm going to have to check if I can find prototype photos of the two specific cars that I have to see if this lettering is accurate. But we're going to leave that until we actually get to the prototype car comparison. What I see on the model currently right now is, again, exceptional quality detailing. I, again, love the end details. I love the separately applied grab irons. The paint and graphic quality on this is superb. It's some of the best I've seen in recent years. it's super thin as well. There's almost no texture to any of this lettering. One of the things that I see often in current manufactured cars is a lot of times the graphics actually have quite a bit of raised ink printing. This lettering on the car is super flat, almost like decals. I feel almost no texture to them, so they just are perfectly applied in that sense. The print quality is superb is what I'm trying to say. I again really love the detailing on the trucks. The underbody detailing is superb, and for the most part I'm pretty sure they got all the graphic details right in terms of car placement, safety striping, the Cardella lettering, but again I'm going to have to check prototype photos next to just really determine if all this is actually 100% accurate or not. So I've actually managed to find both car numbers out of this run on railroadpicturearchives.net, and from what I'm seeing right now, the Cardella lettering is accurate for the specific model that we have here. It is actually accurate because there are multiple variations of lettering from this earlier run of Cardella cars. There's a broader version, and then there's a thinner version, a fat version like what you see here, and then the really thin version. This actually matches up super well with what's on the car. Now, here's where the problem lies. All the data is accurate. It's in the correct location. What is not correct is the CWSX reporting mark. You'll notice that it is not a standard Helvetica font. It's actually a smaller font, and the 140 and the 094 are split apart. On the car here, the number is split apart, but the CWSX is a different font and it's too large. Look at the prototype. Look at the model. So, you know, that's a little unfortunate. It is off in that sense. Another thing that I should point out too, the early Cardella cars have a slightly darker green. It's closer to like an evergreen. This photo obviously does not help, but I actually have seen a number of these early cars in person hundreds of times at this point because they travel up and down the routes through Fostoria. And I can definitely note the green is slightly darker on the prototype car here than it is on the model. But in OVR's defense, I think what happened here was they probably got the prototype data from the newest and latest run of these 6400 Gons, where the green is slightly lighter and the reporting marks are different. So I think there was a mix-up in artwork possibly, and when they were comparing prototype cars. It's something that happens. I can give them a little lenience on that. I'm just happy to have a model of these damn things, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be critical here, but I do have to point these things out. It is a little disappointing to see that they did sort of fall short here. And while we're on that subject, I will show the next card to show the other issue that I have with it. So this is the other car. This is the 140047. The first car we looked at is 140094. So the second car I have, again, exceptional detailing and quality, but the graphics are wrong. This has an entirely different font for the CWSX and the numbers, and on this one, the paint is different, and the Cardella lettering is completely different. It's the large, I forget what this font is called. It's another standard size railway font, but for whatever reason, when they did the graphics on this batch of cars, some of them had this style lettering, some of them had the really thin lettering, and on the prototype, it should be this style lettering, and on the model, it's the standard Helvetica style lettering. The NSC decals are also a slightly larger decal. On the model here, they're way smaller. So just a couple things. The other thing I can point out here, the reporting marks on the trucks are reversed on the model. They should be on this end and this end. On the model, they're on the inner section, like so the inner wheel, if that makes sense. The graphics in terms of data are also different. There's subtle variations between the sides that I noticed. So, you know, I don't want to cut them down too much here. At least we have the models, but there are some subtle variations here that are noticeable that I'm a little disappointed to see they didn't get exactly right, but at least they were close, and we at least, again, have models of these, so I can let that slide to an extent. I would like this model to have that style lettering. That's actually the version I wish they would have done first, because this is the newer variation, and this is the newer style that you see currently. And I guess they just possibly
mixed up the variations, and it can happen to any company, but it's just something I needed to point out. So I know for a lot of those smaller details I did sound pretty critical, but I'm not trying to beat OVR up here. I just wish they would have maybe got those a little bit more closer to the prototype, because there are those subtle differences between these two cars that do technically make them inaccurate in that sense. But at the same time, we have a Cardella car where this number does exist, and they at least got it relatively close, and for the most part things do line up well. They're still nicely detailed cars, and I'm still very happy to own a set of these. So testing the coupler height for these really unique couplers, I found that on the two CDEX cars, both of these were close enough to go ahead and say pass. So these are acceptable. Moving on to the Cardella cars, I found that this Cardella car, the 140094, no problems there. It passed with flying colors, the coupler height was nice, and it matched up really well with the gauge. Now, on the 140047 here, I did find that one of the couplers, in particular on this end, was slightly low. I don't know if this one might be a little bit bent. I can see if I can try to readjust that. I can use a shim if I need to raise the height slightly, but this was the only one out of these two that had any kind of significant issue, and it was just one coupler. The other coupler was fine. So there's the Cardella cars. Now, moving on to the Winx cars, both of these ended up being fine, which I was really satisfied with. The coupler height matched with flying colors, and I'm very satisfied with that. Now, moving on to the AMEX cars. The AMEX 1179 was fine. The coupler height, no problems there. Both ends matched and passed with flying colors. On the 1159, I actually have a coupler that's slightly low, and again, it's just like the other car that we showed that had a coupler height issue. This one only has it on one end, and it's just because the coupler is slightly bent down again. So what I'm going to have to do to correct this is either bend the coupler by taking it out of the pocket and then bending it a little bit, or installing a shim there. But other than that, the coupler height was not too bad an issue on any of these cars. And the only cars that I did have issues with, it's a case where I can actually relatively easily fix this. Now, to finish up this review, there is one last thing I want to do, and it's actually to take a look at these trucks, because all of these cars have significant body wobble, and it's because the trucks aren't screwed down very tight. So what I'm going to do to finish up this video is pretty much just go ahead and we're going to try to access the screw on the truck here to see if we can tighten this down and rectify the problem. Alright, so let's see if we can get this opened. The thing I noticed right away, there's these two little slots here. I'm assuming you can just take a screwdriver and pry this up, being careful not to mess up these brake beams. Just going to carefully come in. There we go. That was pretty easy. It's just a little cover, and then you can see now we actually have full access to the screw. So let's go ahead and see. Wow, yeah, those are really, really loose. Let's go ahead and crank that down as much as we can. Uh-oh. That's kind of a bit of a concern there. I can't really turn that any more than it already is. And I also don't have any screwdrivers with a fine enough tip that I can get it down there and actually try to coax that anymore. Let's see if this works. No. Okay, well, that's a little disappointing. I can't really tighten this screw any more than it already is. It's pretty much cranked all the way down, and we still have some very significant wobble on these trucks. So that's going to be an issue, especially in terms of tracking. I see this as being a potential issue. What we're going to do now is we're just going to put that truck back together. We'll just put it back on. Let's take this out to the layout, and we'll just run these, and we'll just kind of see how these actually perform on the layout. So after quite a few laps on the layout, I'm really satisfied with the rolling quality of these models. They perform super well out here on the layout. I'm really satisfied with the performance around the curves. The trucks themselves perform exceptionally well, and I'm super happy with the quality. But here you can see our nice Winx 3011 diesels just have a nice little trip. It's already made probably about 15 laps around the layout. It's been kind of fun just pulling some of these cars around, and just a lot of fun getting to actually try these new models out right away. It's something definitely different, but I'm going to have to start doing this from now on with all the new models I test, because this is honestly a lot of fun. But it gives you guys a good idea of the rolling performance. Like, even coming around this curve here, as you listen to these cars, there's no squealing. Nothing's popping off the track. That's obviously something you have to watch for with new cars, especially with stuff like AutoRex and things like that. These longer cars have a tendency to sometimes pop off the track. I haven't had a single derailment with one of these cars at all. They've performed just exceptionally well on the layout here. There you can see the last cars entering the new module on the joining section there. So OVR has done a fantastic job on all these cars, and though they do have some shortcomings, I'm still very satisfied with the quality of the cars. They still have a number of these in stock on their website, and I know a couple hobby shops so far have gotten a number of these road names in stock as well, so do some shopping around and you might even be able to get some better prices on these as well. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some of the 6000 series cars come out. Those are going to be the AMEX versions, more for the scrap service, so I might get one or two just to kind of throw in a manifest, because I do actually see a number of those. Those are going to honestly probably be a very popular car for OVR as well. And again, I'm very much hoping that they do the earlier 6400s that have the different ends and slightly different brake rigging. I will definitely buy a number of those when those come out as well. So to OVR, congratulations on your first successful large model like this. It looks fantastic. I'm super happy to actually finally have these after all these years. I can't thank them enough. It's just superb. I'm so happy to have these. Like I said, I've wanted them since I was a little kid, and I first started seeing the brand new ones rolling out and being used in trash service. I'm just so happy to have a model now that I can forgive a lot of the things that are wrong with them. But I'm at least got them pointed out for the video so you guys can assess all that for yourself. I guess the biggest thing that we need to address is just the truck issue with the wobbly truck. It's something, especially if you have bad truck, you need to pay attention to. I would also say you need to watch the air hoses on these cars, because I do have a thing about these possibly catching on switch points and crossings. Now, I don't see these air hoses being damaged. The plastic that they use to mold these is very stiff, but that's just all the stuff I wanted to point out for this video and my final thoughts here. Alright guys, so thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate it. Subscribe here on YouTube for more content like this coming soon. Follow my work on Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook page is Daniel Arnold. You guys can follow me there, of course, and hit me up with comments if you guys have them. Video requests, things like that. I always love to get feedback there. Follow my work on Instagram. It is Danny Dankinson. That is all lowercase, and I'm always posting pictures of different models and different projects I'm working on there. And thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.